Welcome to this author's interview series. My name is Christina Theodoraki. I'm editor of Small Business Economics and Entrepreneurship Journal, and I have the great honor to interview today Alice Civera and Michele Meoli from the University of Bergamo in Italy. Welcome, Alice. Welcome, Michele, and thank you very much for participating to this interview series and sharing your knowledge with us today.
We are honored to be here, and thank you very much for the attention you dedicated to our paper.
So Alice and Michele are going to give us more insights on their paper entitled Empowering Female Entrepreneurs Through University Affiliation, Evidence from Italian Academic Spin-offs. This paper is published in Small Business Economics as an open access article in January 2023. So starting my first question, could you please tell us briefly what is your paper about?
Thank you for the question, Alicia. If this is fine with you, I take the first one. So basically, our paper is about female entrepreneurship and about the role that universities have in empowering women setting up new firms. Basically, we build upon a previous literature that, on the one hand, provides empirical evidence that women-led entrepreneurial firms show lower performance. They are less risky, and this is why they survive most. But on the other hand, we have an interest for academic entrepreneurship. We are also higher education scholars. So we are interested in a better understanding of what universities offer to entrepreneurs who grow in a university environment. So basically, we argue that when we compare female entrepreneurs who set up their firms as an academic spin-off with other comparable female entrepreneurs, the first group doesn't have the traditional features of female entrepreneurs. They tend to be more proactive in setting up and performing more risk-oriented ventures, so a little bit more risk-prone type of entrepreneurs. We do this by comparing the population of Italian spin-off with a large population of Italian innovative firms between 2006 and 2018. And what we find is that even though generally women firms are less prone to growth and they are less risky, when they are actually academic spin-off, they have these characteristics to a lower extent, and they look more like more traditional opportunity-oriented ventures.
Excellent. Can you tell us more why this article is so special? Why is this article important? What it makes it original? And what we learn from this article that we didn't know before from previous literature?
Oh, I will take this one. Our article is super important because instead of focusing on the difference between men-led and women-led companies, as the literature before us did, we wanted to shed light on the heterogeneity within the women-led businesses. So we wanted to outline the relevance of university affiliation for the empowerment of female entrepreneurs. What we basically demonstrate is that academic spin-offs founded by women are able to grow more than their counterpart because of the support they find in the university affiliation themselves. Support that can be related to the entrepreneurial education, to the role model and the best practice that women can find them, and also to the more traditional support infrastructure like TTOs, incubators, science parks, and so on and so forth. But interestingly enough, what we find is that if women with an academic affiliation are able to establish growth-oriented companies, they are actually characterized by lower survival rate. This is not necessarily something to interpret as a drawback, because this means actually that women are able to, let's say, empower themselves, and instead of focusing on small, long-lasting companies like they are used to do, they become more, let's say, proactive and more entrepreneurial in their business activity, and so they are more prone to establish growth-oriented companies. In this way, you can see also a sort of gap filling between the woman-led and the man-led companies. By highlighting the positive role of the university affiliation, we do contribute to different streams of literature. First of all, the entrepreneurial ecosystems, because we demonstrate the importance of university in enhancing the innovation and the economic growth of a region, or in this case of a country, because we are leading with the Italian country. But on the other hand, we are also able to contribute to the feminist theories because the university affiliation can be interpreted as a mean to overcome some of the women's discrimination. Indeed, according to the liberal feminist theories, women are normally characterized by lower resource endowment, and the discrimination they are going through hinder them or prevent them to achieve funding and, of course, outstanding performance. But on the other hand, with the university affiliation, we are also able to demonstrate that it conciliates somehow the idea that women cannot be associated with growth preference. Indeed, according to the social feminist theories, we know that men and women are considered different in terms of attributes and preferences and aspirations. But actually, being affiliated to a university helps women to, let's say, overcome this risk aversion and being more able to establish high growth company.
Can you tell us what was the initial observation and how you decided to write about this paper? How did you get this idea? Where did this idea came from?
Oh, Christina, maybe this is somewhat fun because Alice and I have been studying for years the features of academic spin-offs. So namely firms who are created by academics or PhD students to transfer applied research which is generated in universities. And we have always been aware that the literature has been disappointed with academic spin-off performances, both in terms of growth, revenues, and employment, jobs creation. So over the years, we tried to be a little bit more critical in our approach, trying to better understand what is the transfer from the university to these new entrepreneurs. And we basically weren't researchers into gender issues, but we were invited to join an Italian research group in our scientific discipline. This happened basically because Alice is one of the rising stars among female scientists in our field, and I, as a father of two girls, was considered a potentially sensitive person in this respect. So indeed, this happened almost by chance, but we started being interested in what was happening in the Italian context, and in particular in the gender gap in entrepreneurship. So the fact that the number of female entrepreneurs is small, and also the type of entrepreneurship they create is different. So we wonder whether we could somewhat try to investigate whether the higher education path they pursue before joining an entrepreneurial career could shape somewhat their perception and their ability, and lead them to become different type of entrepreneurs. And this is what led us to hypothesize that one of the contributions of university to society could be of mitigating the entrepreneurial gender gap, not just in the number of entrepreneurs, but rather on the outcome of female entrepreneurial activity.
And this is an excellent idea, and we also see more and more research focusing on this gender gap to understand what is the specificities related to gender. Based also on your paper, where do you see this topic going forward? Do you have any research avenues to suggest? Are you working actively probably on one follow-up paper? How do you see, what do you suggest for future research to explore more on this topic?
Oh, well, as every time happens when you write a paper, of course, you identify some limitations that can be the starting point for future research on the topic. So relating to what we have studied so far, we were able, yes, to demonstrate the university affiliation matters, but actually we were not able to disentangle which are the best mechanisms through which you can do it. The literature suggests, for example, try to create mechanisms of overcoming risk aversion and improving self-efficacy as two of the potential, let's say, ways to enhance university support in fostering female entrepreneurship. Another thing that we believe is extremely important is better analyzing the team that composed the academic spin-off foundation team, because I mean, the previous literature was not able to identify if the composition of entrepreneurial team can enhance or not the academic spin-off performance in terms, for example, of differences in human capital, social capital, age, and gender. We strongly believe that including gender differences can contribute to shed light on the decision-making process and the leadership style of the academic spin-off itself, and then in turn, of course, impact on the performance of the same. So for sure, better considering the role of women, both in the funding team, in the entrepreneurial team, or in the top management team, can be for sure fundamental to better understanding their role and, of course, maximizing their positive effect. And the third, let's say, research agenda that we see, it's super ambitious because, I mean, I talk about feminist theories, but still there are, let's say, in the feminist theories, one that is particularly, let's say, difficult to test from the empirical point of view, that is the post-structuralist theory, according to which women are like socially embedded. So female entrepreneurship is a social embedded phenomenon, and you need to take into consideration the social embedded institutions and ecosystems to be able to better exploit the women entrepreneurship in general. Unfortunately, it's not enough, you know, considering it as a dummy. You really need to understand which is the degree of femininity and masculinity in each business and in each founders to be able to actually find the hinders or the trigger factors that can really help women entrepreneurship. So this is probably, let's say, the most ambitious research pillar that, I mean, future studies should try to address.
Excellent, and we also wish to see more research on this topic. And actually, I would like to know my last, arriving to the last question of this interview. Can you give some advices to practitioners who can benefit from your findings, and probably how we can best implement to have the most positive outcome? Who can benefit from your findings and how we can best use them?
Well, we are really hopeful that our research can inspire practitioners, especially in universities and technology transfer offices, but also policymakers and maybe the society at large. Let me start from the university context, which is the closest to us. First of all, our paper shows that discrimination between male and female academics still persists. And this is not only evident when one looks at the number of entrepreneurs, so the classical entrepreneurial gender gap, but also when one looks at the outcome of academic entrepreneurship. This phenomenon finds roots in women's underrepresentation in specific disciplines where academic spin-offs are created, the so-called STEM disciplines, so especially in engineering, but also in science, math, and computing. And this underrepresentation of women is also there in senior position in the academic world, making their scientific work less visible and therefore with a lower impact in society. I believe that university manager may consider setting up some measures to improve women participation within academia, because the combined effect of career progression initiative and entrepreneurship programs targeting women may contribute to overcoming, at least partially, this issue. However, our evidence suggests also that there are obstacles preventing women from becoming entrepreneurs and from becoming full entrepreneurs. To address this issue, we strongly believe in entrepreneurship programs, especially those targeting female academics. These programs may consist of education and training to provide women with entrepreneurial and managerial skills. They may involve successful entrepreneurs. We believe in positive narrative, in influencing people. And finally, entrepreneurship programs targeting women should help in improving those skills that are generally lacking, such as the interaction with financial institutions and other capital providers. But I believe that our results are also important for society at large, and I would like to hand the floor to Alice for these final points.
Oh, thank you, Michele. Yeah, we really believe that female entrepreneurship is important for the society as a whole. And what we can suggest as policy and practical implication is, first of all, since university affiliation is beneficial for women entrepreneurs, we suggest to somehow supporting the entrepreneurship activity in the university context, which of course may be enhanced, for example, by formulating policies and by involving practitioners and policymakers better in the process. But on the other hand, something that it's really important to underline is that we find that women-led companies that are non-academic academic spin-offs are penalized in other contexts. So what we really suggest or recommend is to adopt a more comprehensive approach and being able to create synergies between university institutions and capital providers. Together, of course, some target policies and a more diffuse entrepreneurial culture. These together, so the combination of these entrepreneurial ecosystem factors may for sure serve the scope. Of course, since we find a very beneficial role of universities, they should be somehow better involved as partners in the entrepreneurial activities at large in a more systemic level. The last thing that policymakers should really be aware of is the typology of businesses they are incentivizing. Indeed, we suggest to incentivize academic entrepreneurship and female academic entrepreneurship if their main focus is trying to favoring high growth companies. But it could be also the case that policymakers for any reason prefers to develop company with alternative business models, for example, more related to environmental and social sustainability issues. So in this case, probably female academic spin-offs are really not the good or the optimal target to look at. So if they are looking for, let's say, alternative business model and alternative measure of success, then high growth companies, they probably should encourage female entrepreneurship as a whole, so at large and not only at the university context. So it's really important to understand which are the intentions and the objective of the policymakers behind.
Thank you very much. We're arriving in the end of this interview. I would like to thank you both, Alice and Michele, for sharing with us this interesting insight, but also useful, and also this inspiring discussion we have today. And I would like to encourage our readers and fellows to download your article, which is available in open access, so it can be freely downloaded from the Sprinklr's website of the journal Small Business Economics. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Christina. And we look forward to receiving comments to this video and to our paper.